Hello, this is Michael Hexter, and welcome to Politics 2100 here on YouTube. So this episode I'm calling On Debt Ceiling, Biden Stupidly Insists on Boosting MAGA Fanatics Rather Than Experts. So as the debt ceiling crisis unfolds, we are seeing in real time how Joe Biden, as I stated in the previous video, is really agreeing with the GOP in terms of his view of his own base. And so he is he doesn't have to listen to the MAGA Republicans, and he can defend the full faith and credit of the United States using a number of different options. The platinum coin is one option, the trillion-dollar, multi-trillion-dollar coin. But anyway, and that is probably the easiest way for him to get past the ceiling debate. But he has decided to invite the terrorists, the budget terrorists, into and the anti-government terrorists, you can say, of the GOP, into the room to negotiate with them. And so he is repeating the mistakes of the Obama administration in which the Democrats also gave too much credence to the Republicans, who were reneging on their own decisions and the decisions of previous Congresses to make certain spending decisions, and which they used at that time and also now in the debt ceiling to essentially renegotiate budgets of years past. So anyway, or budget decisions of years past. So now Biden is essentially being cornered by a bunch of different experts from different corners of the public sphere, including Lawrence Tribe, who is a constitutional lawyer, and Paul Krugman, who is he's an economist. He's not, I don't think, the most consistent person on this issue, but he has adopted the view of, or a view close to that of, the modern monetary theory school that has been right from the get-go on this issue, and also on supporting the trillion-dollar coin idea, among others. It's agnostic in terms of the mechanism, but anyway, we're dealing again, just to back up, if you haven't listened to the previous video on the debt ceiling or other sources. The debt ceiling is an archaic institution where the U.S. government second guesses its own spending by raising what's called the debt limit, because what happens is that if spending goes over taxation, the U.S. government issues bonds in the amount of the deficit. And deficits are something that's normal, that happens all the time. It's not a sign of a bad fiscal policy necessarily, and it's also not at all bad for the economy overall, depending, of course, on the allocation of it. Basically, it's a contribution, a net contribution. This is a term I coined over a decade ago, a net contribution to the economy by the government, by government spending. So in other words, it enlarges the economy, and it enables economic growth on a sort of longer term basis. Now, we can have discussions about whether economic growth is desirable. It isn't from an ecological standpoint, at least. Total economic growth that we need certainly a direction of our economy to grow in certain directions and degrow radically in other directions, including in the fossil fuel industry and the fossil fuel based economy. But anyway, be that as it may, we take that aside. The government on a regular basis runs deficits, and is required by statute to issue debt when it does in the amount of the deficit. And so the debt limit enables this to happen, and it's based on spending decisions and taxation decisions made by previous Congresses. So it's a form of, again, I use this metaphor, again, it's not at all precise metaphor, but it's as if your credit card company calls you 3 months after or 6 months after you made a decision saying, hey, did you really want to spend money on that thing that you bought it and you got it and it's your house, but did you really want to spend that money? Because we can basically renege on that if you want to. So anyway, so it's an effort to second guess the Congress, which is which basically is the budgeter of the U.S. government, and so they have the final say on the budget. The president may propose a budget, and then it gets finalized by the Congress. So this is a way that forces like the Republicans that want to cut government overall, or they want to cut government in the places that it helps ordinary people, helps small businesses, among other groups, but mostly helps the vast majority of Americans, and siphons the benefits of government to the most wealthy. It's part of their ideology. It's part of you could say it's trickle down. And it's a theology really that they have about how the economy is supposed to work, how society is supposed to work, and that all the rewards should go to the people who've already been rewarded, and that government can not have any leveling or equilibrating function in the economy to balance the economy. Instead, it has to continue to unbalance the economy in the way it's already been unbalanced. In other words, in terms of income distribution, so forth and so on, and it just sort of reinforces the you could say the worst propensities of our economy, and in most cases they are the worst for our long-term sustainability, for the social fabric overall. These are the things that Republicans routinely attack, and they want to attack it over and over again. So. And this has been going on for many decades in different forms, but they've become increasingly fanatical, increasingly desperate in a way, but also assured in a way of their power when they have the power to, or in using their power in a way that is directly supporting their ideological fantasies. And so and their ideas about an economy which their fantasy economy, which wouldn't really exist, would fall apart without government really doing a lot of these functions. But anyway, they insist on it, and we have now, unfortunately, and this is not only now, but also the last several decades of Democratic leaders have tacitly supported this view of the economy, even as they make slight adjustments to it, and they put some window dressing on their views, saying that we want a more compassionate version of that economy that rewards capital and rewards advantages already given to continue on in that direction. So anyway, as I was expressing in the recent episode on the debt ceiling, Biden is definitely in this camp of people who really look down on people in the Democratic leadership, who look down on the base constituency of the Democratic Party, which includes working class people, people who are in various forms struggling due to low wages, the high price of health care, a whole bunch of different things that are based largely on policy decisions of the federal government. That it's not a natural order that we're talking about. It's about a long series of policy decisions by government to essentially keep people immiserated, keep people on the edge of poverty or in poverty, and to then at the same time to blame them for that. So to disown responsibility for that. And so Biden has been instrumental in his bankruptcy bill, among other things, from his time in the Senate, in being the ally of this Republican worldview in the Democratic Party. He's a dino. He's a Democrat in name only. Now, unfortunately, there are a lot of dinos, including in the highest parts of the Democratic leadership. So they don't believe in the mission of the Democratic Party as this party that rebalances, that attempts to rebalance this unbalanced economy, and also attempts to direct it toward the future. So in terms of things like a Green New Deal or a creating a sustainable economy, it will require lots of government action, lots of government regulation, so forth and so on. And this requires a belief in this rebalancing or restructuring even of the economy toward sustainability in this case. So that is way beyond, that discussion is way beyond the current debt ceiling standoff. But it is the basic belief, though, that Biden is agreeing with the Republicans is that, no, we are going to continue to make life miserable, including by using income requirements for SNAP and other things, and to try to make life hard for ordinary people. And with the presumption now post-COVID that the government made it too easy for people during COVID. So now we're trying to, the government, or not the government, but the political leaders of the Democratic Party, most of them, and then the Republican Party entirely, we are trying to reimpose austerity, a regime or more austerity on ordinary people. And so anyway, so I use the word in my title stupidly to point out, among other things, that Biden is insisting that he did not have the power. So one of the means of getting out of this debt ceiling standoff is for Biden to simply assert that he has 14th Amendment, that the 14th Amendment binds him to honor the budgetary arrangements by Congress, authorized by Congress. So he needs to assert the 14th Amendment, and one of the ways to do that is, or the most efficient way is to also provided by statute, is for the Treasury to mint a trillion or multi-trillion-dollar coin and pay using, again, that's a gimmick, so to speak, but deposit that coin into its Federal Reserve account and then pay whoever it needs to pay, per the budgetary decisions of the Congress. And so anyway, so all of these things have been, lawyers have looked at these things, and so these are the experts saying, look, including Lawrence Tribe, and Lawrence Tribe is saying he has the 14th Amendment, is behind him. He needs to just ignore the MAGA Republicans. Paul Krugman has said, and again, Paul Krugman is not a modern monetary theorist. He is an economics professor. He often functions as a public political intellectual, using some economic ideas, some of which are better founded than others. But anyway, and some of them are theoretically not so great. But anyway, but in this case, he's standing on the ground, the very firm ground of modern monetary theory, and saying, he should really be minting the coin, and he should be ignoring the MAGA Republicans. So, but meanwhile, so anyway, Biden went through a phase recently of saying, no, he doesn't have the authority. He has to go through the courts and have the courts pre-approve his 14th Amendment obligations, and therefore he needs to wait for the courts to act on it, and that will take time. He doesn't have the time because of the upcoming potential default of the U.S. government. So, but he just the last day or so, he said, well, no, I have the authority, but it won't take time. We won't have enough time to issue the coin or whatever it is. He doesn't have the time to implement his authority. In other words, so he doesn't have the. Meanwhile, it's been said that would be a matter of a few days to mint a coin, and then deposit in the Federal Reserve, and then pay suppliers, or creditors. Okay. So anyway, Biden is simply, again, I'm saying stupidly, ignoring the experts who are supplying him with ammunition to fight the MAGA Republicans, but instead he's embracing the MAGA Republicans, and he is someone who has, relatively recently and incongruously in his political career, started to sort of act as though he is fighting Republicans and he's against quote unquote MAGA Republicans. So he's used the word MAGA Republicans to differentiate the good Republicans from the bad Republicans. And he is cognizant that the MAGA Republicans do have control over the Republican Party. So at least he's in various times he's sort of said that, but it's not clear he certainly doesn't consistently and across the board use that knowledge to then say, well, no, then I have to act differently. Also, he's being stood up as by the Democratic National Committee. And he has started a pre-election campaign. He's being stood up as our bulwark against fascism, okay, which is likely to come in the form of a Trump re-election campaign, or a Trump winning the Republican nomination, and therefore setting up a confrontation between whoever the Democratic nominee is and Trump. So in any case, he is embracing the base, the MAGA Republicans in the Congress and their view of the economy at a time when he needs to be campaigning against MAGA Republicans. So he has both a duty in terms of the Constitution to maintain the full faith and credit of the United States, and also at the same time he's a political person, and he gets to assume that duty because he won a political contest in 2020. Anyway, he is undermining the basis of his own candidacy. So there's stupidity all around. There's stupidity in terms of ignoring experts from legal perspectives, and also from and also I recommend, by the way, Rowan Gray is a lawyer, is a law professor at Willamette University. He lays out many of the issues surrounding what the authority of the president of the Treasury, and to act in this context. So, and I'll put links in the description box to some of his tweets and work there. But anyway, the Biden is stupidly ignoring and is making up excuses for not protecting himself, protecting the Democratic Party, protecting the people against fascism, something he says that he got into the 2020 election to stop that fascism. So he is acting way out of his depth in so many different ways, Even though people credit him, he does some things. He does in a way which indicates that he is, you know, a longtime, public servant and longtime, senator and vice president and now president. So he has a great deal of knowledge of the workings of government and diplomacy and so forth and so on. So there's a lot of knowledge that he should have and that he could apply in a way that is wise but he insists sometimes to act in a way that is perverse and now it's not, if you take the view that what he's doing, and it is a valid view, what he's doing is in tune with his role as a representative of the mega donors, of the donor class who want the Republican and Democratic parties to basically collaborate on cutting benefits to ordinary Americans and to forego the rebalancing functions of government, or only the very minimal, let's say forego all but the very minimal rebalancing efforts that the government needs to take in order for the economy not to fall apart. But anyway, beyond those very minimal things like that were represented by the bipartisan infrastructure bill, of last year. Anyway, the donor class, sort of in terms of rationality, if you look at, yes, he is representing the donor class by saying, we're going to, put crushing impositions on ordinary people from government, or if not crushing, more cruel and unnecessary. And we're not going to use government. We, the Biden administration, are not going to use government to really fundamentally change anything, like he said before his 2020 election to a group of donors. So in a way, yes, if you consider that kind of corruption clever, and and it is, whatever, it's Machiavellian, so to speak, to say one thing to one people and then one thing to another people and act according to the more powerful group of rich people, that you act according to that more than the promises you made to the people who voted for you. So that is, if you want to talk about clever, I guess, okay, that's sort of, I don't know, clever, but it's not, I don't think it's smart. It's not smart for the party, the Democratic Party. It's not smart for him faced with a populist, a right-wing populist. Okay, I'm for left-wing populism, but a right-wing populist who understands how to lance and draw out exactly that kind of. He ran against someone and won against someone 2016, that Trump did, and he was able to tease out that corruption and that and portray himself as being the anti-corruption candidate. He wasn't, obviously. He was extremely corrupt, ultra corrupt. But Biden is placing himself in an extremely vulnerable position. And he's very unpopular. He is not charismatic in almost any situation. It takes a great deal of sympathy for him to attribute any charisma to him. So, and he's not consistently standing for the things he said he was standing for. So he is, in doing the bidding of the elite, the capitalist class unified, in the donor class, or in the various corporate lobbyists and so forth and so on that surround him, and that in doing their bidding he is visiting a world of hurt upon American democracy, and even though it's his old MO, his MO that he's done throughout his political career. He's gotten himself into a situation where American democracy is essentially in his hands to destroy or not destroy, unless, of course, we have a real primary and, he has to stand up for himself and maybe will be defeated by someone who's better suited to run in 2024. So anyway, I hope this video, added something to your understanding of the situation, or at least maybe reinforce your beliefs if they are, I hope, fact-based beliefs. I hope mine are fact-based beliefs. In any case, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Please subscribe to Politics 2100. Please like this video if you found it interesting at all. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.